So I'm about to hit the button right now, so we'll go live.
All right.
All right. All right. Hello. So I want to go ahead and thank you guys today, for calling me back today, so we could go ahead and touch bases on what the discussion we had yesterday, and today we're back with David and Jesse.
Yep. What's up to the listeners?
Yep. What's going on? What's going on? It's Jess. Yep. I'm here reaching out once again. I know 3 days in a row you guys are probably already like, what?
Yep.
Get rid of them.
Yeah, we're back in the office.
Yep. And one of the reasons, I like bringing you guys back, because you guys have the perspective that are from inside, and people from out here can really shed light on. So I think it's definitely important, your views on the way you guys see things. Even though you guys are in the same yard and in the same cell, you guys share different views on certain things. So definitely bringing a different aspect to the conversations we're currently having.
The crazy part. The crazy part is that our views evolve. And I hear some of the listeners, that are old timers, from different generations, and their views are they're basically within the generation of their time. You get guys that they've experienced prison back in the 80s, maybe some of them in the 70s, the 90s, and prison changes a lot. It's like shifting sands. So you have my generation. I came into prison in 2000, and I've been in the prison system for 13 years straight. But I'm almost at 24 years in CDCR, and so I have my experience, but it's also evolving. Prison is changing right before my eyes.
Yeah, that's definitely the prison culture as a whole. Whether you're dealing with staff, you're dealing with inmates, prison as a whole is completely evolving, which is cool because it's conducive to the transformation and the change that I'm seeking in my life. I know Dave's seeking in his life, and most of those who have been on this channel, none of us would have been able to get to the place that we are today under the old model. None of us. What prison used to be when it was the Department of Corrections, there was no way, shape, or form that you would be able to start to shed some of your old skin and take off some of your masks and be able to face life on life's terms, because prison was truly a jungle. So I'm grateful for the shift in culture. I'm grateful for the shift in staff and inmates and everything alike, And now I hope to be, and I believe that I have been a conduit to that change as well,
I remember there was an OG when I first came in at 18 years old, and I was in reception. And back in those days, there was not, the R wasn't on CDCR, it was just CDC, like Jesse said. And I remember looking at the CDC prisoner that was going down my it's written on the leg and it's on the back of your jumpsuit. And I remember looking at it like, damn, CDC, and I remember there was an OG that told me, he's like, hey, doesn't that stand for Center for Disease Control? And that's a lot of how we felt at that time. Like, we were a disease to society, and they were controlling that outbreak by separating us, by isolating us, by quarantining us away from society. And that's a lot of what, CDC was in those days. And now it's kind of evolving. People were behaving like animals, and they were being treated accordingly.
Absolutely. We were a parasite on society, and we were a parasite on the prison system. Like, for me, the first 18, 19 years of incarceration was no more productive and no more pro-social than the last 15 years of my life. And I was incarcerated a lot of that as well. But out there in the streets, I was no more productive and no more pro-social than I was for the next 18 years of incarceration. So we're absolute parasites. So that reference to the disease
Center for Disease Control, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely, because we were a disease. We were parasites. And that's just the truth about it, And so, that's the kind of environment prison and CDC, festered before. You fostered that kind of environment. So, now that's not the case though. Now there's so much opportunity. Prison offers so much to anybody that's willing to reach out and grab it. Before, CDC didn't have no self-help. They had nothing. You had the church and you had NA. the extent of their self-help. That was the extent of their cognitive behavior therapy. That was the extent of, if you either got into God or you got into NA groups. And there was, now there's so many different avenues that you can travel down to develop the new you, and so I'm glad to be a part of that, and I'm glad to take everything that I've been able to obtain over the last few years, and I'm going to obtain.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And take it out there to society and regain society's trust and basically leave a better indentation on this world than the one I have behind me.
I'm kind of glad we're back today. For one, because I've been out of the cell all day, so I don't feel like I got that wild look in my eye right now. Jesse stayed in the cell all day, because he was trying to get that look. And the thing is, James, is that yesterday's topic, it's something that I discussed. I had an opportunity to talk to Silas for a little bit today, and he aligned more with Jesse. The topic yesterday was, hey, man, should we send these SNY gang members and these screw-ups, should we send them back to the main line? And the video that we listened to, and it was, man, I apologize to the listeners, man. I know, James, you were trying to put it together, but that was, like, excruciating on the ears. We got these earplugs, so we got the full length of it, man. That was actually... That was hard to hear, but it's a real topic. It's something that we discuss, and that's actually a common discussion over here. Like, okay, the integration of SNY and general population, is it going to happen? Where's it happening at? There's all these incidents because we have a level 2. It's like a holding building right here where they come and they process them to the level 2 yard, but they keep them here. And that building was going up a lot when I first got here, and so it's just something that's on our minds. And for the people that are thinking about committing crimes and coming to prison, that's what's in store for them. The lower levels are integrated. They're on these yards, and there's going to be people that don't want to be there, and they're going to be looking for people to get out of there.
The irony in that, though, is a lot of us that were from gangs on the streets, and a lot of us that were involved in it, it's like, there's half the dudes from my old gang, half the cats from my old gang that have done life on the installment plan, and those cats have gone always to level 1s, level 2 prisons. And not to say that they weren't gangsters, they were out there putting in, do what they're doing, but they get caught up on some petty crime, and they come to prison with 16, 2, and 3, and they end up on these level 1s and 2 yards. And that was what it was for years and years and years. And these cats come and go. Everybody has them in their neighborhood. But now the reality is, when you come to prison with that short time, and you come up here, you have to make a decision. Am I really about this life? Because you don't have the option of going to them yards anymore. And if you do decide to go to those lower level yards, then you're basically saying, I'm done. I'm giving up the gang that I represent. I'm giving up my allegiance to the South, the North, whatever it is that you stand for, the white, black, blood, crip, whatever it is. So it's kind of a fork in the road that CDC's put there for them too. That says, okay, it's time for you guys to man up. You know what I mean? And you got to make a decision. And it's a trip to see how many you do. Like I can see it. I can speak on it objectively from where I stand today, because I don't subscribe to any of that ideology anymore. However, it's just a trip, because you can sit back and you can look at these lines walking by, all these tatted up gangsters, this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. And half these dudes haven't done anything wrong. But the reality is, they came to prison and said, okay, you got to make a decision now. You either get off, because a lot of cats come to prison, they just slip and slide. They never have to do anything in here. They never had to be involved in violence. They never really did anything. They're out there baloney boosting on the streets. They come to prison, and they do time, a bunch of time, but they never done nothing with their time. So now CDCR is basically telling them, when you come to prison, you have to make a decision. Am I committed to the gang? And if I am, then I have to get off as soon as I get there, and no matter how much time I got to jack my points up. Yeah. I have to keep getting off until I'm actually on a level 3 yard where I can stay with the actives and the GPs. Because if you're a low level individual, you're going to be considered SNY. Well, they call it non-designated, but it's the same as being SNY.
Yeah, like I had another conversation with a guy out in the day room today, and he's a first-termer. He's a white guy, and he's pretty cool, but he's a regular dude. He works in the canteen here, and he's just somebody that we all know. And
a nerd.
Yeah, he's a full-blown nerd. Yeah, I'll say it. Well, I'll reiterate what Jesse said, but no. So this guy, he said, well, if these guys are killers, if these guys are such big killers over there, then then they shouldn't have no problem getting out of there and stuff like that. But and I stopped them. I says, look, man, I says, so the people that are in these lower levels, most of the guys, including the gang members on the streets, most of these guys are not killers. Just like Jesse was saying, these are baloney boosters. These are guys that they're drug dealers. This is how they support themselves, or they're low level thieves and whatnot. They did something to come to prison, but these guys aren't built like that. They're not. You don't just come into CDCR, into the prison system, and just be like, bam, I want to start putting in work. It's what it is. Well, these guys, a lot of them don't even know, what they got in store for them. They're hearing stories, or they might have like a secondhand tales from family members and stuff, but they're coming here and they're seeing just what I saw when I was young. And I got out of a lower level. I didn't want to be there, but I didn't get out of there because it was a no good yard. I got out of there because I didn't want to be there. I wanted something more. I was chasing my addiction and chasing my defects and whatnot, but these guys, they're not going to, they're left with the decision. Just because they're on level 2 yards and level 1 yards doesn't mean they're not gang members, doesn't mean they're not active gang members. These guys are what they are, and they're put in situations where they're going to have to get off, and they're going to have to learn real quick, man, that this is what it is now. This is what their life is. It's a messed up situation, to be honest with you. And I feel bad for those guys. Just because they're in prison doesn't mean that they're bad dudes. Just because they're GP doesn't mean they're bad dudes. They're just doing something different than what I'm doing. But I did the same thing when I was their age.
A lot of them aren't youngsters, though. That's the embarrassing thing about it, though. A lot of them cats are, in their late 30s, early 40s, some in their 50s. And like I said, they've been doing life on the installment plan. And now when they come to prison, they come up here and they land.
What were you saying? What were you saying, Jess, about the old cholo, the old gang member? Remember the other day you were talking about, Jesse went on a rant about an old gang member. He goes, what is an old gang member? Remember you said, like, what is it? What is the OG from the neighborhood?
I don't even remember.
Jesse has gold sometimes, man. And it got me thinking. He mentioned about what an old gang member looks like. Like, what is it? Okay, you finally made it. You didn't get life in prison. You did what you had to do, but you're still an OG gang member. You're still on the streets. What do you look like? And I'm not talking about the guys who have got their lives together, the OGs that, been around and been in prison. I'm talking about the guys that are still in the thick of it and just happen to slip through the cracks, navigate, get these little
hanging out of houses with all the little homies.
Yeah.
Hanging out, 40 years old, 50 years old.
Older.
Yeah, 60 years old.
We're 40, so let's go older.
Yeah, hanging out with little, 16, 17-year-old kids, because they're the only ones out there still gangbanging, acting like idiots. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. It's embarrassing though, like I say, I see it all the time in here. 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid, men, and 60, 50-year-old kids.
Yeah, this is where that influence. These are the guys that are influencing the younger generation that comes into prison, and they're telling them, hey, homito. They probably still use the word homito. Hey, carnalito, hey, homito. This is what you got to do when you get there, and whoop de whoop, and what. And these guys have never really even made it past level 2s, maybe some went to level 3s, but
running some liquor store drag on them.
To get into these levels, to get into level 3 and level 4, you have to be here for a reason. You don't just come in with those kinds of points. I'm still at 61 points right now, so I'm still considered a level 4 technically. I'm here on a behavioral override, but my points were up.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I was at 123 points. So these guys got to come in and start putting in work, and you get 115 on the level 2 yard, you're still going to be low level. You get 6 points an incident?
Yeah, it doesn't even the 115s anymore. They don't get you the points like they used to.
Yeah, they used to stack them points.
Yeah, you got 115. Any 115, you could walk away with 14 points.
I got 32 points off my first 115.
Yeah,
I got 16 points for the weapon and 16 points for using it for the.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Yeah, that was a.
And then you didn't lose the 8 points that you were supposed to lose.
What did you lose? 6 points or something a year?
Yeah, it was 8. It was 4 and 4.
Oh yeah. It was a big old thing, James. But we're gonna call back, right, James? You've been real quiet over there.
Yeah. No, well, you guys haven't given me a chance to sneak in there. So, but right now when you come back, I definitely have a question.
Yeah, he's not.
They dropped a question on
that's what we need.
They dropped a comment on the questions yesterday. So. They deleted it, but I kind of memorized it, some of it, so I'm gonna go ahead and paraphrase it, and I'll go ahead and ask you guys when you guys call back.
All right, that's cool, man. All right, we'll call back.
Okay, perfect. All right, so So yesterday, when we went online, I had messed up my audio. I got it back up and running now. So I'm actually able to take a live call. So if anybody wants to call in, I put the phone number that we could be reached at on the chat, and it's a local number. It's free. So if you could go ahead and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to call in, and when they call back right now, I'll go ahead and ask them that question. And I see Fish Layer, tapped in. So, definitely, I appreciate that. And just to go. All right, here we go.
This call is
This
now
is
being
Global
recorded.
Tellink. You have a prepaid call from
David Lopez.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged.
All right, James.
All right, perfect.
All right,
So
you're in, James. You're in.
hey, thank you for tagging me in. So first off, I want to go ahead and just let anybody know that's listening. If they have any questions, they can either call in. I have posted up the phone number that we could be reached at inside the chat. And if you don't feel comfortable and you don't want to call in, you're more than welcome to drop those questions or comments in the chat. Either way, I'll go ahead and read them off, as soon as I have a moment. And then also just wanted to let you guys know that Fischler, tapped in. He just got off of work. He's driving, but he's listening to the content that we're putting out right now. So, want to give him a shout out.
Hey, I always feel better when Fish Slayer's on for some reason. I just do.
That's right.
Yeah, because we talked about music one time, and we threw some bands back and forth. And it's Fish Slayer, man. He sounds like he's the boy, man. And I just feel better when I hear his name.
Yeah.
Hey, don't ask me why. I just do.
Oh, you know what?
It feels like Slain, that's all.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to go ahead and mention something to you guys. So you know how I've been telling you guys I've been taking pictures of the chat and sending them to you guys. So last week, last Sunday when we spoke, or not last Sunday, but the Sunday before that one, I took some pictures and I sent them to you, and they had been pending for like over a week now. So today I double checked the app, and for whatever reason they denied the messages from going through, and they did that for a lot of the chat messages that I had sent out last week. So I went ahead and tried to send them over to you again. So I'm hoping who the officer that denied them doesn't check these and denies these comments from getting into you guys, because they don't have anything provocative or I mean, it's just questions and whatnot, like the stuff.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
That's weird, huh?
I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, because they've been going through just fine, but I'm guessing maybe like a staff that normally doesn't check the messages was like, screw this, I'm just gonna deny everything. I don't feel like dealing with it today. So anyhow, so yesterday,
It's possible.
Yesterday after the live, I did see a message that came in, but it's no longer there anymore. They deleted it for whatever reasons. But I did get a screen grab of it, so I do have part of the message on here. So, and I just wanted to read it to you, and I'm kind of paraphrase it because, like I said, I don't have the full message here. So the comment that was put on there said, for all them PCs that ran their mouth. And then I think after that he said, and like ASEG, Wolfie and when you guys were behind the well, not you guys, but anybody that crossed over, was screaming, making comments and who banging pretty much behind the wall. Now that that the GP or the SNYs are being sent over to the GP, like now they have their their chance to handle that business. In other words. What was your experience, when you guys were in AdSeg, when you guys were going over from the main line to the SNY?
Man, I was in Chino. Like in Palm, and I was in them overflows over there. And I've been around a lot of PCs, man, that were, when I was still active, that, man, them guys were freaking out of control, man. And I used to just daydream about freaking getting to them dudes. And it's just there. I know what he's talking about in that kind of that kind of highlights what we were talking about earlier about the generation, because that generation is kind of past. You know, there was a lot of guys that were doing that during those days, and it was just a madhouse, man. And I got stories, man, that'll really gross you out, James. You know, with some of these dudes, man. It got so bad one time that at dinner time, okay, there was the top tier was at Sig Overflow because Palm Hall was normally full. The middle tier, some side of it would be GP, the other side would be SNYs. And on the bottom tier was like JCat SNYs, man. And there was dudes, man, that were so loud in the bunks in Chino. They're on chains. You know, some of the cells have chain bunks. So these dudes would slam their bunks all night. There was a dude down there that would sing the Star Spangled Banner, and he would sing that all freaking night, man. I mean, it was so loud, and you don't got earplugs in the hole, nothing like that. And I remember, you know, as soon as I went to sleep, I wake up to like, you know, and the Rockets red glare. He would throw a high note, and first it was funny, you know, I was like, that fool knew the whole thing, but eventually when he sings it over and over again, when you see that this guy's just insane, you know, we start yelling back sometimes, and we used to get in trouble for that. Like, hey man, shut the hell up, you know, we're trying to sleep, and then boom, he starts, and then he gets mad because you said something, and he starts banging the bunk, and the sound of that bunk slamming down on that chain is just over and over and over again. And this is going on at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. When I went to the hole not too long ago, they gave us earbuds. They give us earplugs now because it's a common theme. But now the earplugs are for the J-Cats. Those guys that are just out of control. You know, they're just insane. But now it's changed. It seems like the respect level has really shifted. And I know Jesse has some insight on that too, on the respect level. It's a different generation. So maybe we'll get into that a little bit, and then we'll answer that guy's question a little bit. You know, what do you think, Jess?
Yeah, I think whatever that guy's talking about, he's speaking in a different time, because it's in no way, shape, or form like that. I know what he's talking about, because I was still on the line when fools were acting crazy and doing all that weird stuff. But it reminds me of something that I remember one time he had me in isolation one time, and I was actually on a medical floor, and there was a bunch of crazies on the floor surrounding me because they tried to keep me isolated so that I couldn't keep contact with other places in my county. And it was a trip because there was a female next door to me that was out of her damn mind, and she used to just be wigging out day and night. And I used to just turn the shower on in the cell, in the ISO cell, so I wouldn't have to hear. And I remember telling a brother from the prison gang, like, man, you know, this chick's driving me crazy. And I remember him telling me, he said, hey, man, remember who you are. You're supposed to make her sane. She's not supposed to be able to make you crazy. Remember that. Yeah, he said, stay mindful of what it is. Because I was like, man, this Highness, you know, she's driving me crazy up here. Like, because I didn't have to deal with too much of that weird stuff, you know, with as far as like how David said it, you know. But I know in over the last 10 years in the shoe and the ad tags and everywhere, it wasn't like that anymore. Truth be told, you were getting more weird stuff. I'm not to say that this cat, whoever left this message, is active or inactive or whatever it is, right? But the fact that he's talking and feeling like that, it just goes to show that he would have been one of those guys that I've been there where the mainliners now are actually the ones doing all the woofing, and it's like, come on, fool, like, you're supposed to be active. You're not even supposed to be engaging. If one of these cats I've been there, you know, where they'll start getting into it with the SNYs in the cage or on the tier, and it's literally like, come on, fool, like you're supposed to be active. What are you doing engaging with that dude? Why are you sitting there acting like him, or why are you sitting here contributing to the problem, you know? And it's funny, you know, it's funny that it's been that way. And for, like I said, for me, when I end up throwing in the towel, there was none of that on the tier, you know. Like I said, all the active fools were right there. They understood what it was. All the SNYs understood what it was. Everybody kept things respectful, because in the shoe over the last 10 years, everything was cordial. We knew what it was. It was business. If somebody, you know, if there was an opportunity presented itself, you went for what you know, and that was that. It was business. It was nothing personal, you know. So as far as what he's saying about people going back and doing all that, you know what I mean? Like when I was in
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
When I was in the DPU dropping out because I was validated and I had to go through the whole process to get out of the prison gang and all that stuff,
I was there with cats who called themselves just dropping out. You know what I mean? And I used to tell some of them about this, like, man, what's the matter with you? You know what I mean? Like, you're not even on the SNY yard, and look at the way you're acting, fool. You know what I mean? Like, so clearly it was never in you to begin with. You've always been a weirdo, because look how you're acting right now. Just because you're going to the other side because we're dropping out, it doesn't mean that you got to start acting like a weirdo. You know what I mean? Like, come on, fool. If you're acting like this right now, it's always been in you. You know? So on the sergeant, yeah. So as far as what old boy's saying, you know what I mean, like all people woofing and doing all that stuff, that's a different time. Very seldomly are you going to catch an SNY woofing on anybody, because they understand that it's cordial. At one point in time, you know, a lot of them dudes blamed everybody else. A lot of the SNYs blamed everybody else. Now it's just like they're doing their own time. They're not worried about anybody else. And like I said, you're going to see some of the GPs talking more shit than you will the SNYs. It's funny, you know. So
yeah, remember too that look. They're still gonna walk right now. He's on our tier. Now they're doing count time right now. They're doing it kind of weird. So we're standing up here with the highlight on, looking like jackasses right here with one tablet. But yeah. So these people, they're not. Yeah, it's just what it is, James. But yeah, these guys that are running their mouth like this and they're you know just going on a sick one. Them dudes they're not with it. They just got a lot of stuff, man, that is probably going on in their life, and they just want to scream at somebody. These guys got their whole life has been upended, and it's their fault, and they all know it, you know. And the fact of the matter is that if they were to go back to the main line, if they were to put them on the main line, they would probably act active. They would go out to that yard, they would act like they were freaking belong there. They would navigate, they would maneuver, and they would do what the hell they had to do to survive. They're not going to go out there guns blazing. That other dude that, you know, from that video yesterday, it said that he got hit. The incident was in front of education. Now, let me tell you this. Education is not far from the fence where you come into the yard. Everybody starts at that fence the way that the yards were designed. You come into the yard from, they call it, what is it called, the ped gate? The complex. Yeah, so it's called complex, and then what's that gate called, though? Is it called the pedestrian gate, the ped gate or something like that? Yeah, there's a ped gate that opens up, and you have a wall normally to your right side, and when you turn left, you're on the track. The first building that you're going to see is going to be the frontage building that has the education department, the program office. It's going to have laundry, canteen. All that stuff is on one little row right there.
It's called the patio.
Yeah, the patio, yeah. So that guy didn't make it very far. You know, and hey, to be honest with you, man, kudos to that dude's madness, because he actually walked on that yard. They would have had to drag me out of the cell.
Yeah, it is, just for some clarification for anybody who doesn't understand or cares to know the reality. Like that's far and few between. Like I haven't heard of one individual, period, until this situation that the CO posted on that page. I have not seen anybody get put back on the general population. So I don't want anybody to think that, you know, I mean, this cat who said, oh, well, this is going to be their time to shine, and hey, like I said, I agree with it. If they get put back over there, it's because they put themselves in a situation to be placed there, and I agree with them. Go ahead and go over there. If you were one of them cats that were talking all that shit on the tier and acting like a straight peseta, well, then go over there and let your nuts hang, fool. Let's see what it is.
Hey. Yeah, we're all. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
But the truth about it is that it's not happening like that. You know, these are policies that they're trying to implement, and this is the vision they see going forward, because you're either a programmer or you're not. That's how CDCR sees it. Now that they're putting the R behind it, they're trying to establish this Norwegian model of prisoning. They started in San Quentin. They're offering all these things. They're offering bachelor programs and AA programs and drug counselor certifications and peer literacy mentor certifications, and they're investing in us, and they expect us to invest in ourselves, right? So I totally agree with the whole, you know, send them back over there, and if they all want to bushwhack each other, handle their business. But this isn't happening in the way that some may think it is. You know what I mean? Me personally, I've never heard of anybody ever being sent back to the main line other than these level 2 integrated yards. But you come up and essentially that's what it is. You come up and you're landing on a yard with level 2 inmates. And you know, in Corcoran, I know they killed some cat in one of those 50-50 yards, but for the most part, it's not happening just yet. You know, so
yeah, certain people will get you. You know, like me, I was the jackass. I got somebody on the level 1 yard when I was younger. You know, and it does happen. And the thing is when you go to these yards, you know, and a lot of it that what I've learned, I would have taken the note right out of the Northerners playbook. I would have acted just like I belonged there. I would have slipped in, and that would have been that, you know. I wouldn't have been there like I was scared. I would have walked on that yard, and I would have even probably said I was from some notorious Southern gang, changed my name to Viper or something, you know.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
You know what I mean? Came with a wheeler, you know, like giving me the yard. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I would have done something, man. You know, to navigate.
Set himself up in a way.
Yeah, set myself up in a way to where I can strike pretty good, you know, and make sure that they don't do that again, you know. But I don't have those types of tattoos, you know, on my face or anything like that, you know. And so it's a little bit different, James, you know. So,
yeah.
But old boy doing that, in essence, he's doing the same thing, though. By him posting posts like that and saying, oh, well, that's the same thing. That's as good as wolfing. Well, where are you at now type stuff, you know?
It's the same concept, you know. It's just, yeah, it's an ugly road. But, yeah, we'll give you a call back, James. We're about to cut off right now.
All right, perfect. We'll be waiting.
You gotta hold it. Hey, you gotta hold it down right now, James. And we're gone. You know, you gotta really wow the listeners, man.
Hey,
we'll be back in a few minutes.
I'm gonna be doggy paddling over here, but I got it.
Well, all right. I'll see you in a minute.
All right. All right. So I added this timer up on the screen so we could kind of get an idea of how much time is left on these calls in between. So like that, if you want to run out and you grab some food or some drinks or whatever, you kind of know how much time you got, you know, if you're not on a wireless headset and you don't have to scramble all around. Hopefully that makes it makes it a little bit easier. I was trying to implement this yesterday, right before I lost the audio, and this is pretty much what caused me to mess my audio up. But this morning, you know, when I got up, I went ahead and messed around with it, and I was able to, you know, set it back up.
This call is now being recorded.
You have a prepaid call from
David Lopez,
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not.
Hello.
All right, James.
All right. So right now, when we had that small break or pause, I was telling our listeners that I added a countdown on the screen, so we know exactly. Well, at least you know the listeners and we know how much time is left on the call before it gets cut off. So if they want to run out and like grab something to drink or food, if they don't have headphones, they could go ahead and do that just in case they're like on a computer, and then it'll help me keep track of the calls.
Look at you. Cool. That's a technical guy right there, you know.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, I'm normally behind the camera. You know, I could set everything up, and normally I'm not in front. But you know, I have no choice. You know, I don't have anybody else. You know, to be able to do this from the outside. So it's on me right here. And then luckily, you know, I got you guys, you know, to help me out with other content that's happening behind the walls.
No, it's cool. Yeah. Yeah, but me and Jess though, we don't do good with fame. You know, he's wearing ostrich skin boots. You know, I got feathers in my hair. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we both got grills. We got grills made. You know, Chingo Bling grills.
Price checks on Bentleys.
Yeah.
Can I get a price check in the front room, in the showroom of the business?
Yeah. He's in the showroom right now.
It's all good though, but like I was talking to somebody earlier, and they, like I said, they had been listening, and they were like, hey, you know, they like the way things are going and stuff like that, and but they did say that sometimes it sounds like we're just having a general conversation, and I think that's okay too though, because some of these people that listen, it sounds like some of these people are pretty committed to listening to Dave and I. And so it's kind of cool because I like the idea of having formal interviews and topics and generating the cast around the topics. And I like that because I'm just, I prefer some sort of structure. But also, too, on the days that we tend to just be on here just joshing and having a conversation, I believe that gives listeners a little insight, a little understanding, a little more connectivity with us so that it's not just as formal as the topics themselves. You know, some of these people, it seems like if they're pretty committed to listening to us and they get to know us, and we've had other listeners say, hey, I look forward to meeting this person, moving forward. Well, this gives them an opportunity to get broader look into who we are as individuals, because it's not just all about, you know, we're humans still, you know, regardless of everything that we're doing to make ourselves better people. We know we still have our own personality, we still have our own characters, and so if we are just on here hanging out having a good time, that's okay sometimes as well. You know?
Yeah, the thing is also is that these topics that we're discussing, Jesse and I, we're still in it. These topics they're our life. You know, this is something that I said, I'm behind this door right now, but this door will open tonight. God willing, I will go to yard, and you know, hopefully I'll be safe out there. I'm gonna do my workout and walk the track, but I'm on an actual prison yard. This is a level 3. This is a level 3 facility right now. But you know, I do see these officers. They're strapped up. They got their bombs on them. They got their pepper spray. They got their bulletproof vests on. You know, they have that stuff for a reason. Me and Jess, we just got our sweaters. I got a Nike sweater on right now. Jess got some thermal. You know, that's it. That's our protection. You know, and we got our wits, and we got our humor. We got our way of navigating these situations. But these topics right here that we discuss, we think about this stuff when we're not on live. You know, we discuss these things. You know, when I'm on my top bunk, I'm, you know, replaying the day, and I'm thinking about, you know, dangerous situations. There's days where, you know, the other day I let you hear the beep. You know, that beeping sound, James. You remember that?
Yeah, I do, man. I thought you were gonna tell me like it was like the
Yeah.
microwave, the popcorn was ready or something. But yeah, I had never heard anything like that before.
Man, I wish it was. And the thing is, right about now, you're going to hear it again. But that was the alarm test, because they just did count right now. They got to make sure that me and Jess are where we're supposed to be and whatnot, you know, and everybody here. But that beeping sound is the last thing that some people hear. When we hear that sound, we know it's all bad. And that sound is all bad right there. Every time that sound comes on, we're at the door. Everybody's at the door. And if it's not at this time, and sometimes it is, but it'll happen right away, because remember, when they do these counts right now, this is when they find people dead. This is when they find people overdose. This is when they'll walk by and they'll see they'll see them covered with blood, and that alarm is real. And so that sound always does something to us when we hear it. And I wanted you to hear it, because that's something that's very common in here. We hear that sound all the time. You know,
that's a noise that we've heard for so many years. I believe that even once we get out to society, there's many things you hear like that out there. There's buses backing up with that same beep. There's tractors. There's all kinds of shit that for the rest of my life I'm going to associate that beeping sound with violence, with some sort of traumatic experience that I've faced, that I've been a part of, perpetrated, been a victim of, or just witnessed. You know what I mean? It's just the reality of it, you know, and that's why I wanted to tell you that, you know.
That's the background sound of madness. You should see how we are when somebody squeaks their shoes. You know, when there's these idiots that walk around with these squeaky shoes sometimes, and it makes that sound, you know, like it's rubbing on the floor and it squeaks, and everybody gets up and looks around right away, because we want to know where it's at. We're waiting for that alarm usually follows, and so does the sound of punching, or, you know,
or get down.
Yeah, that get down that guy yelled at one day. That's how it sounds. You know, I didn't like it. Hey, he knows how.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
A lot of times when we use humor and we talk, because this is how me and Jess, this is how we kind of de-escalate ourselves, because these things raise up certain emotions within us. It puts us on guard. It triggers bad memories. You know, there's things that we always think about incidents when we hear those alarms.
You automatically go back into it's called an emotional hijacking, an amygdala hijacking, where automatically when you hear those shoes squeaking, when you hear something like that, the natural fight or flight kicks in, because you've been a part of it for so long. I know I have. I know Dave has. So when you hear that, you instantly, and that's the difference between where I told you that I'm not built for this anymore, because now when I hear those things or I feel that way, I begin to feel fear, and I never felt fear before. I did. That's a lie. To say that I didn't feel fear is a lie. I just didn't allow myself to process it as fear, because automatically I went into fight mode. But now it's like when you hear it and you see it, because fight mode is not an option. The only option I have is flight. You know what I mean? So when you see things and things like that happen, you automatically go into like, how can I protect myself versus how can I become the aggressor in whatever situation comes my way. So when you see things like that, it's a crazy situation, and so, you know, I believe for a long time, it's going to take a long time to get a lot of these memories and these realities out of my mind and my subconscious. And it's a trip that old boy said that, because I was telling Dave about it, like that cat that he referred to, Inmate Tours or whatever he was talking about, old boy that ended up going back to the mainline. We've had somebody like that right here on this yard, you know. And for me, it's been an eye-opening experience because, like Dave, like said, I didn't spend much time getting into specifics about all the crazy shit that I was doing here in prison, just because I just didn't, you know, I didn't feel it was necessary. But there's a cat here on this yard that has been a straight nuisance. You know, he's a gang member. He's just like, not the one that got beat up, but another one just like him. You know,
always with them too.
Yeah, he was always with them, and these were they were birds of a feather flocking together. You know, and these dudes, like these cats, wouldn't make it 10 minutes in a disciplined mainline. They wouldn't make it 10 minutes on any real level 4 SNY or GP. These dudes are just like straight clowns.
Yeah, one of them didn't even make it here.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. One of them couldn't make it here and got beat up by 3 programmers. 3 dudes that were getting their life together ended up whooping this fool, right? And so, anyways, he got the homeboy right here from his little weird ass PC gang, right? And these dudes, since he's been on this yard, he's gotten in at least 3 fights. He's been caught with a fierro. He's been caught with drugs. He's been caught with syringes.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
fierro is a knife, you know, for the listeners that don't speak. You know.
Yeah, he's been caught with a knife. You know, just constant, because they've revised the policy now of how they can send you to add administrative segregation. They cannot put you in the hole anymore unless you're involved in violence, which is crazy because a fight is violent.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It's nonstop.
But it basically, what they're saying is they cannot put you in the hole unless you were involved in battery with a weapon.
This guy was just in his last fight, what, 4 or 5 days ago? When was that? When was that happening?
Yeah.
Didn't that happen last week?
Yeah, about 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
Yeah.
But this is like the second or third fight he's been here on this yard, and it's the reality is they cannot get rid of this cat, you know. And for me, what it does for me though is it's just a reminder of all the bullshit that I've done here in prison and the nuisance that I was, where I thought that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing in prison. I didn't realize how it was affecting other people's programs. Where now, because they shut down our yard, they're searching our buildings, they're doing all these crazy things when people are acting like that and doing those things, that I didn't realize how I was affecting the person to the left or the right of me, because the people that were standing next to me personally were doing the same things I was doing. But I didn't realize there's people standing outside of our circle who are being adversely affected by the shenanigans that I was doing, you know, by bringing drugs and cell phones and doing all these other things, you know, carrying weapons and being involved in fights, you know. Like I said, when I got to this yard, 4 months after arriving to this yard, I was involved in a group disturbance right here in front of the chow hall. It was a
That's a very politically correct term, yes. A group disturbance, he really toned it down for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they call it. They call it a group disturbance, you know. So, but for me, it was because I was still conditioned. I had just gotten here from the main line, and I was conditioned the same way, you know what I mean, as I was over there. You know, if your celly gets in something, you get, you know. So, anyways, I was involved in stuff like that, right? But to me, that was normal. I did what I was supposed to do. It was what it was, you know. But I look back, you know, and I think about it like, man, all the stuff that I've done just on this yard right here alone, right? I think about like, okay, I was the person that the way I see this cat and I see his homeboys and these other fools running around here with all this shenanigans, I was that person. And I realize now the way I was affecting other people's programs and other people's lives, you know, and it makes me feel remorse. It helps me to understand the magnitude of the horrible choices I was making, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm in prison. I'm serving a life sentence. I'm supposed to be selling drugs. I'm supposed to be fighting. I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to find a way to get around security by having cell phones. I don't care if they're going to come in and hit the whole building because they believe I got a box of cell phones laying around this building somewhere. Like, that's how I was thinking back then, but I look at it now when they're coming in my cell because I live comfortably. You know what I mean? David will tell you, you know, I got the best cell on the yard right here. I live comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, I have things that nobody else has. I live in ways that because I've made it comfortable. But when they're coming in this building and they're tearing the whole tier apart because those guys, because they keep getting caught with drugs, they keep getting caught with phones. And now it's like, well, I kind of want to take it personal. Like, man, what's up with you guys? It reminds me, like, well, hold on. How many times have they tore building after building apart because of the things you were doing in here? You know, how many times have they had to shut down yard while people are out there having a good time playing softball or running the track or playing volleyball or handball or basketball or whatever they're doing, and they shut it down because you and your friends want to, you know, how many, like I gave that example of getting in that little melee in front of the chow hall. Like, okay, what about the guys who didn't get to eat their dinner that night because they were too busy over here breaking up this group disturbance?
Did they shoot at you, Jess?
They
shoot a lot, you know, normally.
Yeah, they end up shooting the black gun, the spray, and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
How many times did you know? And it's not funny, man, but I mean, how many people do you know that have accidentally gotten shot because of your BS?
Oh yeah, that's
or anybody else's. A bunch of times.
I've almost accidentally been shot because of somebody else's BS. Because I wanted to grab my tray off the table.
Yeah,
my old fat ass. I got to get my food.
The trick with these, when they're supposed to, like, yeah, and the thing is with these Bertas, they're like these, and these things hurt, man. They're non-lethal rounds, but they're still rounds. They're coming at you they're coming at you fast, and they're coming at you hard, and they're there to drop you. And the crazy part is with these rounds that they fire, they're supposed to skip them off the ground, huh, Jess? They're not supposed to hit you directly with them, but I've seen them leave the barrel and hit somebody right in the head before, knock them clean out. You know, and sometimes those things, if they hit them right, they're going to kill somebody. You know, and they do fire. They do have live rounds up there. They have mini 14s or whatever. You know, they shoot 22 rounds, and there's signs all over the prison that say, warning, no warning shots will be fired, period. When that thing fires, they're going to shoot to kill you. And so you really don't know. You're hearing a lot of shots being fired, but we all know when the mini's been fired. You can tell it just sounds different, you know.
It's got a whole different
crack.
Yeah,
it's got a whole different crack to it, yeah. And I've heard it fired, and it happens, and it's crazy when we're on the yard, and you're like, damn, that's where that fool fired that mini, you know. And these rounds, they load them up, and they're firing the non-lethal rounds, and you don't really know what's going on. When this happens, like, I don't know, you know, I'm pretty sure when, you know, Jess was in...
You have 60 seconds remaining.
They throw smoke canisters that are supposed to be cloud pepper spray. Then they explode into powder, and so no one sees what's going on. There's just, you hear firing, you hear the crack, you hear the rounds hitting the ground, and you can't tell where everybody's at or where anything's coming from. And I feel really bad for the guys that aren't involved because they're in that cloud trying to run wild, and sometimes they run right into a round.
And that powder's going to stick on them for at least 2-3 days.
Yep. Yeah. So it's pandemonium.
But I said all that about old boy to speak to they're taking it away from CDCR to be able to deal with these kind of people.
Yeah, they need,
and this is a perfect example. This cat right here belongs.
Could you hear that?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and call back.
No,
yeah.
so
sometimes he's.
I added that on there, so like I could let you guys know when we're down to like 10 seconds or whatever. So we're down to 9 seconds. So, if you want to go ahead and call us back,
we're gonna have to talk more about that in a minute. I'll call back.
Oh, don't tell me I blew out your eardrums. Oops. Oh no. I thought it was kind of low. Anyhow, you know, so I did put the phone number up there. If you guys want to go ahead and give us a call, and if you have any questions or what or comments you guys want to make, and so that they should be calling us back shortly. I do see that's 11 people in here. You know, really appreciate you guys, you know, tuning in and listening to these conversations. And I'll go ahead and read off your questions from ICEMAN when they come back in.
This call is now being recorded.
You have a prepaid call from
David Lopez,
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Hello?
James?
All right, so I'm guessing I blew out your eardrums? With the
no,
sound?
it wasn't. It sounded like somebody mumbling after they were up for like a week.
Oh, okay.
That's how we heard it, you know?
All right.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Was that?
well, you know what?
Crazy. Like,
there's it has like a built-in like this thing that I'm using to plug in the calls and whatnot. It has like 3 buttons where I could customize them to like different sounds and whatnot. So those are like the preloaded sounds on there.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna have to go back to the drawing board.
Where are our sounds? You know, just don't do that. Don't do that. Oh my gosh, don't do that.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I don't have that one on here.
That'll freak me out.
Okay.
Hey, it was on that video. No, that video.
Oh,
that
okay.
Guy, he was like, he made a sound. Remember? And then
Yeah.
you hit the little thing. It's like a horn. It goes. Dur, 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 dur.
Is it that?
Oh man, hey, you do that, James. You'll probably. You're gonna lose them. Yeah, you're gonna lose me, James. Like,
Yeah.
honestly,
Okay. Okay.
Hey,
That's a Jamaican dance
I'll
hall.
probably start.
You're gonna start dancing like you're in a Jamaican dance
Yeah,
hall.
I'll probably start swinging. I'll start throwing punches in the air. Like just it's all bad.
All right.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
So that video that you played with that correctional officer, right? This is Jesse again. That video that you played with that correctional officer, you can kind of hear his frustration. Me and Dave are kind of skeptical about him. Like as far as his agenda or his motive or but what the things that he's talking about, you can hear his frustration, right? And I understand where he's coming from because now I can see those things objectively, and I hear about it all the time from COs right here. COs stop me all the time because they know me. I've been in and out of this prison on the main. I've been on all these yards here on the GP, and I've been here on this yard now for a few years, and so they all know me from when I was a cagapalo, and they know me, from even messing up here on this side, and they see what I do now, and they respect it, and they encourage it, and they've written me chronos for the pro board and everything. But a lot of times the staff stop me because I don't know if they believe that I still have, because I do interact with everybody. I say what's up to everybody. I don't look down my nose at anybody. I try to give everybody, their due respect and just keep it pushing. But a lot of the times the CO stop me when I come back or when I'm coming from breakfast in the morning because I don't go eat. I just go pick up my lunch and I walk back. So like the tower, the building cops, they all stand out in front of all the buildings while they're releasing chow. And a lot of times they'll stop me and they'll ask me like, hey, Nawa, what's going on, man? Like, what's going on around here? Because in the last year, I've seen more incidents on this yard in the last year than I have in
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And so they see it too, So a lot of times they're like, "Hey, what's going on with this, man? What's going on with that? Like, like just what's happening?" And the consensus that I've gotten from most of them is because I'm like, "Well, hey, when I was messing up, you guys did your job. You guys didn't make it easier on me. It was cat and mouse. What's going on here? I mean, like, what do you mean what's going on? You guys aren't doing your job. That's what's not going on. You know what I mean, like." And they'd be like, look, well they've taken it from us. There's nothing we can do about it. You know what I mean? Like this situation, that situation. We caught this dude with a knife. We caught this guy with a knife, and there's nothing we can do. We can't take him to the hole anymore. We can't do this. We can't do that. And so they're all starting to get frustrated. And that's why a lot of the older COs, the ones who have actually been around prison with some real violence, they're all kind of like, well, I got to get out of here because they have post-traumatic stress disorder the same way because they've experienced a lot of real violence. Prison isn't as violent as it used to be, but these older cops, they've experienced it. So when they realize that they have no tools in their belt that they can actually utilize to protect themselves or contain a situation legitimately, they're starting to realize, well, I better get up out of here before this becomes a liability to me or a safety and security issue for myself. And they're retiring, and they're bringing in all these young COs, all these kids out of the academy that really, a lot of them don't have much sense, but they're training them different, which is cool because they're teaching them how to interact, on a humanity level. But again, like I said, the consensus, the frustration that I hear from a lot of these COs is the same frustration on that one on the other channel on the podcast because they, basically like, and that's what he was saying. Well, what do we do? How can we work the same one? They're saying the same thing here, So it's clearly something that's going to have to be addressed on all sides. I mean, they can't let these cats run around here and mess it up for people like us who are trying to do our time and get out of prison. But at the same time, too, are they going to put the burden completely? Are they just going to leave the staff here to the inmates' devices?
And that's the thing too. We heard them. We heard them. We heard you played a little bit for us. And the thing is, the fact of the matter is, we don't know the individual. So we don't want to speak on him or the things that he's talking about. We have insight onto our perspective. But I mean there is a lot of corruption that goes on in prison, but on both ends. But there is also a lot of good that's going on. People would have never thought that me and Jesse would be doing the things that we're doing now. And the same goes for the other side. There's guys that were hardliners, man. They were super cops, and they're still about their business, but they're all about rehabilitation and change also. And a lot of those guys, they get shunned, man. They get ostracized by their own people. We see it, and it's rough, man. It's a bigger problem. And to get back to the topic though, about SNYs going to the main line and stuff like that, it's just, look, there's entrenched problems, man. There's problems that have been going on for a long time. And this idiot that's running around our yard right now, and he's just every single time this dude's out of his cell, it's just something happens, and he's in loss of privileges right now, so we don't really see him much right now because of that fight last week, and he's already classified as a program failure. He's over there in another building, so we don't interact with them. Well, we don't interact with them at all, but he's not on the yard as much as he usually is, and it's been kind of peaceful out there. This other idiot's gone. This dude's over there, and he's in the cell. He's on loss of privileges, and it's peaceful. But there's gonna be somebody else to take his place as soon as he leaves. For whatever reasons, there's gonna be another jackass, and you think, where does it stop? I think it would be more reasonable. Oh, go ahead, James. You have something to say?
So I had a question. So you guys are talking about like programmers and program failure. So I'm assuming programmers would be like you guys that are going to school, and you guys are taking advantage of all these programs that the CDC is currently offering, and program failures would be people that are still with the shenanigans, fighting dope and cell phones, and and all that good stuff that makes prison uncomfortable place to be at. So my question would be,
you got that to a T.
Thank you. So my question would be, how many people on that yard would you consider programmers, and how many others, or the other half, or whatever number it is, would you consider program failures?
That's a difficult question to ask because so we interact with the people that we interact with on the yard are considered programmers. There's about a solid group of us that are, always doing CGA stuff, but there's not a lot of us as far as our social circle goes. So this yard, how many people would you say is on this yard, Jess? Not including 4 Block is its own entity. 4 Block is like a level 2, where they don't program with us. They're something else. So really, we have buildings 1, 2, 3, and 5. So there's a lot of empty bed space. C sections are all open right here. So let's get the count on the yard, Jess. What do you think?
There's about 120 people in each building, except for 5 Block. There might be 70 people in there. So
about 500 people.
Yeah, if that on the whole yard. The yard's empty.
Yeah,
the yard's basically empty. And also too, with that term programmer, right? We've had a bad habit of hanging that handle on us, right? We've allowed people to hang it on us ahead of us.
Yeah.
And even me, I've adapted it and adopted it. But the reality of it is it's kind of,
it's another label.
Yeah, it's another label.
Yeah.
Because the truth about it is, there's a bunch of cats here that are programming. Yeah. Right? They go to group. There's a bunch of people on this yard who don't get involved in nothing. They're probably getting high on the down low in their cell, minding their own business. They don't
programmers technically no, right?
Yeah,
they're doing drugs, shooting up. They got cell phones.
Yeah, they're just. But as far as like the people who are actually truly committed to transformation,
not a lot.
There's not a lot. You know what I mean? You pretty much, not all the guys, but for the most part, most of the guys that you've interviewed on this podcast are pretty much that's the programmers, and there's probably about another, or those are the guys who are committed to transformation. Those are the guys that are part of our direct community.
You say 30?
I would say 30 max.
And that's not a big number, James.
Yeah, max 30 guys.
Out of 500.
Yeah, 30 out of 500 that are truly making a difference. Now there are a lot of guys that are making a valiant effort that are still struggling with their addiction, still struggling with
100?
Yeah, maybe 100's kind of stretching it.
Yeah. So there's still 300. Let's say it was 100. Oh no, there's 370 people that are just left to their own devices on the yard. That's a pretty crazy number.
Well, I like I said, there's also, because you got to remember, this is a
levels to this shit.
Yeah, this yard right here is filled with a bunch of people that in my previous life I would have considered creeps and you know what I mean, like just people that unsavory individuals, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, I interact with a lot of them now because I do what I have to do, because everybody's just suffers from their own diseases, and so there's a lot of these guys who they're not really criminally minded, but they've made some horrible choices in their life. And those guys, they just go to work, they go to school, they do whatever they're doing, they play their little Magic Dungeon and Dragon games, stuff like that. You see them in traffic.
Hey, they do. That's
no,
what
I know. I'm laughing because I hear about that.
You don't. Yeah. You interact. You don't really interact with them much, but those guys are here. They're like, I would say they're a third of the population on this yard. The other third is all bad, and then there's like you said, there's a good 50, 60 guys struggling but trying to do something better but don't understand what they're suffering from. And then you got maybe about 30 cats who are actually making a difference.
And you know what's crazy? You'll get a guy that's in the group and he's just like, man, he thinks that he's just God's gift to programming, and it's crazy because everything that comes out of his mouth is wrong. You hear it, and you're like, damn, everybody has their own unique perspective and stuff, but you'll hear guys that get up and they just go on these tangents, man, and you think about it like, man, where in your words do you feel like that's appropriate for this group or this context? Like, man, you are out of your freaking mind, and what I do, James, how I screen people out, and I called it the Big Five. I don't know if I've talked to you about this before. The Big Five for me, right? The Big Five for me. Don't use drugs. Don't sell drugs. Stay out of gangs. Don't disrespect staff, and don't use cell phones. That's right there. You abide by those things. I'm not saying that you got to be buddy with these guys, with these staff members and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, if you're living like a civilized human being, you're not going to go out there when you see an officer drive by and you're just going to flip them off and say, man, fuck this dude and blah 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 blah. You're going to be respectful. You might not like the things that they do, or there's a lot of things going on with law enforcement out in the streets and stuff like that. But they're serving their community. So I just think like the guys who are real.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
They make things harder for us, because they're going to come down on everybody for that, and I think just if you can't get along with staff and you're not mindful enough to just, if you don't agree with them, just don't talk to them. Just do what you're told, man.
Well, I think that's rule number that should be rule number one when you're learning to break down your criminal thinking, because that's one of the biggest criminal traits when we were living that life, is we had an us versus them mentality. Us versus the cops. And for a long time, it was necessary because a lot of these cops were on some other stuff the same way we were on some other stuff, But for the most part, like, a lot of these cats, they're just here to do a job, you know what I mean? And when you could start to look at things objectively, like, hey, this guy's doing his job, he's not. Now, you get the ones that come in here and they're doing those moves, so they're doing extras. They come in here like they're better than everybody. They're they're hassling people and they got bad attitudes. But once you're able, like me, I've struggled with authority my whole life.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I couldn't keep them because I didn't like being told what to do. I didn't need to have a job. I was a drug dealer. What I need to keep this job for? I'm only doing it for appearance purposes. And so I couldn't keep the job because somebody else is telling me what to do. So I don't struggle with that anymore, because it's like I understand the pecking order. I understand the hierarchy. So it's like, okay, this officer's telling me what to do. He's having a bad attitude. Oh, well, that's more about him and less about me, So you want me to call you back, Jim?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to call you back right now.
All right, cool. Perfect. Thank you. All right, so time was about to come up right now. They pulled the plug a little bit early, but they should be calling us back. And this time for real, so I'll go ahead and read off these comments. My apologies. This conversation is pretty interesting, and it's kind of hard, to drop these comments once it gets started. Anyhow, so right now when they call back, I'll go ahead and read out the comments that we currently got on there. And shout out to Fish Slayer, SoCal, LA Analyst, and ICEMAN, for dropping those comments in the chat. Definitely gonna help out with getting us in the algorithm.
This call is now
I want to read some of the messages on here. So we have a ICEMAN on here. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but he's
Yeah,
tapping.
LifeMan. No, you did it, man.
Okay, yeah, he's in here, and and the message he put on here is that he's tapping in from work. 1.5 hours left, so 1.5 hours before he gets off. So he's definitely getting it in on the clock.
He's getting it. Yep.
I like that. What's up, Iceman?
Keep that radio low, Iceman.
And then we got another comment.
I felt bad because I didn't have a chance.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't have a chance to send him an email earlier, letting him know that we're going to be on. So I'm glad that he was able to tune in and locate us.
That's right.
I came in from work at 3:30. I came in at 3:30, and we had to make sure all the technical stuff was done. So. Yeah, I'm glad he's here, man.
And I'm glad I was able to, figure out this technical stuff out behind the scenes and whatnot. But so we have another comment from Fishlayer SoCal, and he's like, Jesse and David would have a job with me with a great career if they come home. He's the Union Carpenters Local 619. So that's something nice to hear.
Cool,
that
man.
You guys could get a job when you guys come home.
For sure. No, for sure, man. That'd be great, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any opportunity.
No.
And he probably knows working with the union.
He's probably worked with a lot of ex-convicts, a lot of cats have been in prison. I'm sure a lot of lifers, and he understands that us lifers and long-term offenders, when we get out there, we can appreciate opportunities in ways that other people take for granted out there. And I know this because I took all the opportunities I ever encountered, in my past. I took them for granted, and now he should know firsthand that any opportunity, and that's probably why he extends that, because he knows that any opportunity that a long-term offender or lifer comes in contact with, that we can appreciate it on a whole nother level, because we appreciate life in a whole different way, So I appreciate that offer, and if ever need be, I'll definitely be reaching out.
Yeah,
that's
for sure. Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate that too, man. Yeah, I can tell, man. That's a good dude right there. And,
that's right.
Anybody that knows and knows. Yeah, anybody that knows and knows what to look for knows that, me and Jesse, we've made a lot of changes to our lives, and our perspective is that if we couldn't make those changes in here, we wouldn't be able to make them out there. Like we wouldn't survive out there. We would, so we knew that we had to say no in here, and it's hard, man. It's hard in this environment. You heard the numbers, man. There's 30 of us, and all 30 of us on the yard. We're talking about on the yard. We're not all together. At any given time, there's probably 6 of us, Jess, 7 of us. We're around, we know who's who, but as far as the schedules are conflicting, we work and stuff like that. So we had to actually take a look inward and think, okay, set aside everything. What do we got to do to become better people? I want to get out there and I want to be the best employee. I want to get out there and I want to provide for my family. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. I want to do what I'm supposed to, what I should have been doing a long time ago. So in order for me to achieve those things, I'm going to need for me to get my life right now. I'm going to need to become free on the inside, period. I'm physically incarcerated right now, but mentally, man, I'm freer than I've ever been. And I know that I would be a good employee. I know that when people speak up for me and be like, hey, this guy, give him a chance. I know that he's done X amount of time in prison and he's made a lot of mistakes in the past, but I can guarantee you that's not who he is today. And that's why it means a lot to us to hear stuff like that, James.
And then
so shout out to Fishlayer SoCal, man.
And and actually right now we just got 2 questions in from somebody new that I've never seen tap in before. But before I read off those 2 questions, I'm gonna read off a comment that Fishlayer put on here. So he put, I have 2 lifers that work for me, and the best workers I have. Facts.
That's cool, man. Yep, that's right, man. And they're a tribute to when you put in the work, man. Anybody can do it.
I've seen actually a couple cats get out of here that I never expected to succeed, just because I was unsure of what they were doing here. But the fact that they had spent so much time in here, when they got out, they didn't really do a whole lot to make themselves prepared for out there. But one thing when they left this place, they were tired of this place, and they were going to do whatever they had to do out there not to come back. And they're very successful, and because somebody opened their door and gave them an opportunity, and both of them are actually with the union, and they're killing it out there right now, because they understand that busting their ass and working the way they need to work, that's the difference between success and failure. That's the difference between freedom and prison. And so that's cool. Appreciate that, and I'm glad. Kudos to those lifers that are out there handling their business,
And I look forward to somebody sharing my story with somebody else about my success and me getting out there and being a hard worker, you know?
Yeah, a lot of the things we do in here is to honor those guys in you know, their commitment to their change. You know,
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
All right.
We're a community.
Those
Go ahead, James.
Sorry.
those are the ones that those are the ones that pave the road ahead of us. You know, those are the ones that trudge the path ahead of us. So you know, it's definitely, they were an example to somebody who may have been an example to us. So definitely got to tip my hat to them.
All right, what you got for us, James?
Okay, so I just want to go ahead and make another nice announcement, just in case anybody came in and didn't realize that we're actually also taking a live phone call. So the phone number is actually on the chat, and it is on the screen. It's that 213 number. If you want to call in, you know, ask questions or leave a comment or whatnot, you're more than welcome to, you know, to join the conversation. It is open. It is open mic. So the question so the new or at least participant here goes by the name of Brew Swillus, BREW, and his question is
Yes, sir.
His question is going to be
Very, very clever. Very clever. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was tripping out on that one. So he says, I like to touch on what Homeboy was talking about earlier. They never tell you about the good things that you guys do, like going back to school and getting degrees, and programming, etc.
Yeah.
What are y'all's redemption stories, and how is it going?
Man, we had quite a few calls on the redemption stories, you know, and so just to sum it up, right? I was a mess. I came into the juvenile system. I came into prison at 18 years old, and I was a mess, man. I was involved at all levels. I caused a lot of havoc, man. I picked up life in 2010. I picked up 42 to life for second-degree murder. I got a lot of time on a gun enhancement also, which was 25 to life. So technically, I'm doing 2 life sentences right now. I came into SNY. I got in trouble because I was basically involved with things that were out of my league. I got in trouble. I came into SNY. I was filtered through the SNY process into yards that were just man, war zones, man. It was just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of violence, a lot of chaos. I was deep in my addiction, and I had a horrible addiction to methamphetamine. And there was things that happened kind of simultaneously that helped me get out of that rut that I was in. For one, a beautiful person came into my life that, well, you know, I got her back. You know, she was somebody that always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And she came at a right time, man, where I happened to be, I was sober for once because I had just been found guilty of using methamphetamine. So I was on mandatory drug tests. So I was sober. I had a moment of clarity, and she was able to reach me during that time. And I didn't stop right there, but that's where the seed was planted. I knew that I wanted something in my life more than how I was living at that moment. Things progressed with her and I, and she's now my wife. And I don't want to disappoint the people that have basically put everything on the line for me. I was able to use that as my shining light, and I was able to get off of methamphetamine. I was able to leave the gangs behind. I was able to leave the violence behind. I'm over 6 years clean at this time from violence. I'm over 5 years clean at this time from all drugs. I've been cold turkey, no drinking, no nothing. And now I work as a facilitator. I work as a mentor. I give praise to God, man. God, I said prayers along the way. You know, I didn't want to get into too much of a religious aspect to my story, but yes, I did pray to God, you know, and I couldn't do it no more. I knew that I couldn't do it alone, and I needed something, man, to give me that little push over the finish line. So that's where I'm at now. You know, I was actually able to go to a yard. It was a level 4 yard, but there was a lot of programming opportunities there. I was able to enroll in college. I was able to really, really succeed in that regard, and now I've made it to a level 3 yard. And now I give back. My life today is about being of service to my community and giving back to people that I see a lot of myself in. That's mine. That's David. You know, Jesse, he's got an amazing story also. You know.
Yeah, I mean, to recap, because I have personally, I've addressed all this in previous interviews, and I've given a full backstory, a full, bio, and so basically in short form, like David, I was born on drugs, drug addict parents. I, lived an extremely dysfunctional, childhood. Came into the juvenile justice system at 12 years old, joined the gang at 12 years old, got addicted to drugs at 12 years old. I experienced with drugs, with marijuana and alcohol at even younger ages. It just was a rough childhood. Experienced all kinds of child abuse. Ultimately, I ended up murdering an innocent man. At the age of 17. I had went to the California Youth Authority as a juvenile, was in and out of placements, juvenile camp, all kinds of stuff. I ended up going to the California Youth Authority. I got out of the California Youth Authority, was involved in another violent shooting, and I went on the run to Arizona. While I was in Arizona in 2001, I was brought back to California for the other shooting, as well as a cold case murder, the one that I had committed when I was 17, and I was brought back in. I was given a life sentence. I've been incarcerated since 2021, all the way up till February. While I was incarcerated, I was involved in many violent situations. I was involved in prison gang. I was involved in drug trafficking. I was involved in attempted homicide. Just violent act after violent act. Criminal activity after criminal activity. Like I said, I joined the gang at 12 years old, so that gang was my identity. That gang was my only escape from a world that I had already perceived from a very young age, that it was dangerous, that it hated me, that nobody loved me, that if I didn't get things for myself, nobody else was going to get them for me. I didn't believe I was worthy of love. I had no respect for anybody else. I had no respect for women. I had so many issues that we'd have to be here for hours to talk about it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I came to prison, and from 2001 all the way to February of 2020, I was involved in the very same activity that I was involved in, same criminal activity, same drugs, the same violence, the same gangs as I was out there in the streets. In 2020, I was taken to administrative segregation for distribution of narcotics in a prison facility. And while I was sitting back there in ADSEG, the year before, or a year and a half before, I had actually dropped out of the prison gang and come over here to the SNY side. I did it out of self-preservation. I'll be the first to admit that. I wasn't trying to change my life. I wasn't, it was self-preservation. And so I came over here.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I had no idea who I was without the identity of that person I had created, for so many years, that life that I had lived for so many years. And ultimately, I fell back into what I knew. I fell back into the one thing that I felt validated me and gave me a sense of purpose, that gave me, a presence about myself. And because I wasn't going to join another gang, I got back into dealing drugs and dealing phones and basically associated with all the gangs, utilized them as a means to an end here on the SNY side. And as a result, I ended up back in ADSEG again for distribution. While I was sitting in ADSEG, the reality, set in, like, look, man, what the hell's going on here? The irony of it is I ran into an ex-homie of mine when I was back there in ADSEG who told me he's on the main line. He's back there at the time in the hole for a stabbing that he did on the main line. And this guy's telling me, like, what's the matter with you, fool? You already did the hard part. You're in the SNY. Why aren't you getting right?
You have 60 seconds remaining.
So when he said that, it kind of resonated with me. I was already kind of tired. I was already letting everybody down. Everybody that told me they loved me and I told them that I loved, I was disappointing them at every turn, So, you want me to call back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Call back, James. I didn't hear your little sound effects.
No, I didn't do it because I wasn't trying to scare you again.
James.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? All right. Hopefully they could hear me. Anyhow, so the call got disconnected. They should be calling us back shortly, and we'll go ahead and continue. If you guys could give me like a little speaker or a thumbs up or something. And oh man, hey, wow, thank you, Fish Slayer SoCal. Go ahead and shoot that over to today. The 40 that was sent over to them yesterday, I sent it over this morning, so they're definitely gonna have a good Christmas. Anyhow, so if you guys
This
check
call
on
is now being
This
recorded.
is Global Tel Link. You have a prepaid call from
David Lopez.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored.
hello.
Hey, James.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hey, did you get cut off?
No, I didn't get cut off. I'm not sure what happened, but yeah, no, I could hear you guys. Can you hear me? Hello. Let me see. I guess they can't hear me. Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, no, hold on. Hello. I'm not sure what's happening. I guess they can't hear me. I'm checking everything on my connections. Everything looks good. Can the audience, can you guys hear me? Maybe not. If you guys can hear me, can you guys put a microphone up? Let me see. I'm gonna hang up and hopefully they call back. You can hear me, okay? But I guess for some reason they cannot hear me. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me send them a message really quick to let them know that I'll go ahead and send them a message letting them know that I could hear them. I can hear you guys. All right. So I'm sending them a message. Anyhow, so for their background stories and whatnot, if you check under playlists, you could check their you can actually listen to their whole life stories. It pretty much from the time they're as far as childhood and then all the way up until now. So it pretty much gives the full walkthrough on where they're at on their lives right now. All right, they're calling me back, so let's hopefully they could hear me.
This call is now being recorded.
Link. You have a prepaid call from
David Lopez.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, that was yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
Okay.
that was weird. The tablet started acting up, and then it kicked me out of the whole app and everything. So I had to relog back in, and yeah, it was what it is, man.
All right, perfect.
But,
I was kind of worried. I thought it was something in my end. I was like, man, like don't tell me this happening again. I'm like, man, what am I gonna do now? I'm in the middle of a stream right now. It's something that is not easy to fix, especially when you got a bunch of people, in here listening. Go ahead.
Hey, you never watched Wayne's World? Just real quick, you remember Wayne's World when you ever watched it a long time ago?
Yeah.
You remember when Wayne and Garth had a big falling out, and Wayne stormed off and left Garth to run Wayne's World by himself, and he was just
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
And he was just sitting there, and he was just Yeah, well, that's the image I have right now. All right, so I'm gonna turn it back over to Jess right now because he was in the highlight of his madness right now.
Hey, tell him to come back. We need him. We're mid show right now.
Yeah. Right. Now, so anyway, so like I said, I was in AdSeg. They were taking my level for my override because I was here on a level 4 override to a level 3. Because I was a step down. I had went through the step. I had dropped out from the prison gang, and they gave me an opportunity to come program on level 3. But anyways, I'm sitting back there in the hole. They're taking my override. I've picked up new charges. I've picked up another shoe. I'm doing the same exact things that I was doing, and the reality started to set in. Well, hold on. You have nobody else to blame anymore. You can't blame, you know, in order to lie to my family, what do I, because they understood the gang. They understood what I was a part of. They understood what it was. They didn't truly know or get it, but as far as they were concerned, I had to do what I had to do to survive in here to protect myself. And
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I sold everybody a bunch of crap about that I was doing what I had to do to survive in here. I didn't tell them the truth as I was a part of the problem. So anyways, that I was the problem, you know, and large part of the problem, you know. And so I end up making a commitment while I was sitting in ADSEG in 2020 that I was done. You know what I mean? I was tired of the person that I was. I was tired of disappointing my kids. I was tired of disappointing everybody in my life. And I was just tired of being the person that I was. You know what I mean? It started to become a full-time job, you know, and so it just it started to weigh heavy on me. So anyways, I came out of the hole, and they kicked me out because of COVID. They kicked me out pending transfer to the level 4. They kicked me back out to this yard because they couldn't transfer anybody out to another prison because of the COVID. It was mid-COVID. I got out in April. I got out of the hole in April or May of 2020. I went there in February 4th. Of 2020, and they cut my shoe in half and they kicked me back out. So anyways, I came back out with the commitment in my head and my heart, not just to me, but to God and to my family, and it was just basically that I had to do something different. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew one thing: I was tired of doing things the way I had been doing them my whole life. I came back out and I was doing great. August 20th of 2020. I ended up relapsing. I stayed sober. I stayed away from everything. Of course, I had these entrenched beliefs. I had these entrenched defects. There was things wrong with me that I had no idea about back then. You know, I didn't understand what was the fuel that kept me burning. But in 2020, on my 40th birthday, I ended up relapsing. I mean, in 2020, on my birthday, I ended up relapsing, and so. But it was just one day, you know. I went to my parties for my birthday, and it was like, oh, it's cool, this is it, you know, it is what it is. But I woke up the next day, and I felt like, man, I felt guilty for what I had done. I was just like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, this is not, this is not how it works. You're gonna start making reservations. You're gonna end up right back where you were. So, anyways, over the last, basically the last 4 years, since February of 2020 or April, May 2020, when I got out of the hole, I've completely began to transform my life. I began disputing all the irrational beliefs that I live by. I began, identifying the defects of character that drove a lot of, my behavior. I came to an understanding of the obsessive compulsive and progression cycle, the lifestyle of addiction in my life, and it made it easier for me to identify a bunch of the crazy stuff that I had been doing and why I was doing it. And ultimately, so I said, over the last 3.5, 4 years, I've gotten certified as a paralegal. I'm 37 units into my AA degree. I'm double majoring in psychology and business. Hopefully next year, by the end of 2024, I'll be able to graduate with the AA in business and AA in psychology. Hopefully I can be transferring to get an AOD certification so that I can be an alcohol and other drug counselor, certified counselor. I've, like David said, I'm a mentor, I'm a sponsor, I'm a facilitator. I actively participate and facilitate in numerous programs here. I've established programs myself, and I'm a participant in programs. That's pretty much now where I was once a part of the problem. Now I'm an example of what change can look like to anybody, regardless of how bad it was. And a lot of these guys see that, and I'm able to bring a lot of guys into the fold that normally, a lot of times the guys in recovery don't always seem to be approachable because, a lot of guys on the outside are still dealing with shame and dealing with guilt and still dealing with denial. But when they see me, it's like, oh, that's the homie right there.
Yeah, and I would encourage the listener, any new listeners, to check out Jesse's story. His name's Jesse Nava. He's got a really amazing story. And mine also, I go into detail. David Lopez. I go into detail about exactly what we went through when we were kids. And me and Jesse, we do know each other from out in society. Well, we spent time together in the juvenile system. We know each other from out in society, from out in the streets. and we know each other from the main line, from the prison system and whatnot. And this is my boy, and we our story came full circle, and now we're here with Cellies, and we're just doing the best we can to try to navigate this madness and get home to our family, to our loved ones. That's it in a nutshell. But yeah, we've talked extensively on our histories, and so I would encourage those to check out those stories.
Yeah, if you're looking for more and you're looking more understanding as to the redemption aspect of it, there's a lot there. Yeah, feel free to go back and look at some of the old casts.
Hey, let me ask you a question, James. I'm going to ask you because I got to get you involved, James. I can't have you nodding out on us, falling asleep.
Hey, hold on. But before you ask me the question, I wanna let you guys know again that Fish Slayer SoCal, he's blessing you guys with another $20. So you got that coming your way, and he also dropped another comment on here. And he mentions that he has two brothers doing life. So my mission is to help all that are in the system. So that's one of the big reasons that he's in here and always supporting and listening to these conversations, because he does have.
Hey, we appreciate everything that he does, man, for us, and just for being a good supporter. And I'm gonna tell you, man, my heart goes out to him. We have siblings, Jesse and I. We got siblings out there. We got people out there, loved ones that they're doing this time with us. And I didn't see that at the time. When I got my life sentence, I was like, all right, well, that's what it is. My family knows what it is because, I've been in the system since I was young. So I figured that it's going to be, it's basically nothing different. But my family was devastated, man. I looked into my siblings' eyes. I looked into my mom's eyes. I look into my wife's eyes, and they're hurting because I'm in here doing this time. I'm in here with the life sentence, and I don't have LWOP. I got 40. Well, they took 2 years off recently, so I'm doing 40 to life right now, and my family feels it, man. So my heart goes out to him because I know they have two brothers, man. That's an incomplete family right there, and I can see that he's doing what he's got to do on his end to just be a positive role model and an example. And should his brothers get an opportunity to go home, he's got things lined up.
Yeah, it's great that they got somebody like him in their corner.
Yeah.
Likewise, I appreciate everything he does. I appreciate the cariño and the love he sends out this way. And my hat's off to his brothers. They're in the trenches still, and it's always good to have somebody out there like that of the positive mindset like Fish Slayer. So I don't know what they're doing with their time, but I strongly advise that you continue to encourage them and show them if they're still consumed by that lifestyle, if they're still caught up in the shenanigans. Just let them know that there's always other options, there's always other opportunities, and these doors, they're open. They're open. I was doing life without before. I had life without, and I got my life without taken off in 2014, and so it took a long time for me to get that out of my system. But let them know that I literally every other month I'm watching a lifer walk up out of here, you know. So just know that he hasn't lost his brothers indefinitely, and he needs to encourage them to open their eyes.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Because if they want to get out of here, that door is open for anybody who's willing to walk through it. But it's not an easy path.
It's not, man.
It's not. They're going to have to do the work that's necessary. And it's not just getting out of prison. That's the biggest thing for me. I never wanted to walk out of prison just to come back. And so a lot of guys, they're initially they start to change because they want to get out of prison, but eventually it starts to resonate. They start to internalize the things that they're learning, the change that they're developing, and they begin to transform. And so just tell him to keep encouraging his brothers to reach out and look for the things that are around them. Go to these programs, even if they're not ready, even if they're struggling with addiction, even if they're struggling with
start
gangs.
somewhere.
Yeah, start somewhere. Just go sit in on these groups and pay attention. Listen, even if it sounds like a foreign language, because that's how it was for all of us. But eventually some of that stuff will resonate. Listen to the other guys' stories, and I guarantee you a lot of those guys they're gonna be able to find a way to connect with them, And so Just be every yard. There's not a yard in California, even whether it's a 180, GP, mainline, SNY, whatever it is. They have opportunity. They have program. Their CDCR their whole model is different. So just ask his brothers to go out there and get it while they can. You know what I mean? Because these doors they may not be open forever. So I don't know how long they've been down or what they got ahead of them. But just know that I'm gonna make sure I'm up out of here before they close them doors. So hopefully his brothers can do the same, And if we can help in any way, if you ever, if he needs anything from us, and that we can help him, maybe help them understand, or
then just let us know. I have a question for you, James. What I was going to ask you earlier is, okay, so hearing what you hear, right? You spent hours with us.
Yeah.
So some listeners on this stream have spent hours with Jesse and I. Hours. We've done a lot of sessions and whatnot. You guys get to know us a little bit. You guys get to hear our personalities, the way we are, the way we joke. But Jesse and I, we were a part of the problem before on SNY. We've been good for a long time. I've been good. I haven't had an incident in 6 years. Jesse, it's been almost 4 years, 3 years, something like that. It's been a while. But we've removed ourselves from those situations, and we've made the changes necessary so that we can live a good life in here. We could just be good people. The thing is that if they were to pull the Chronicles because of our past and send us back to the mainline, do you think that our decisions in the past, do you think that we should be sent back to the mainline? We're two of many people here that have done a lot of messed up things in SNY.
No, because based on where you guys are right now and your lives, it would be detrimental to what you guys are trying to accomplish right now. You guys are seeking better. You guys are going to school. You guys are helping others. Around you, and so that wouldn't benefit anybody if you guys get sent back to the mainline. Because go ahead.
So you agree though that there's got to be some factors. There's got to be some middle ground, because it can't just be straight across the board. Because if it was straight across the board, everybody that was a problem in SNY and whatnot.
Oh yeah, there would definitely have to be some checks and balances put in place. So just not anybody would be going back, because if that's the case, then you put a cop is having a bad day one day, and you maybe tell him something slick. To you it's not a big deal, but this dude takes it to the heart. He gets butthurt, and next thing you're back, you're on on your way back to the mainline.
Yep.
So there definitely has to be some type of checks and balances.
We violated the contract. Boom, we're butchered, just like that.
Yeah.
We won't even make it past we won't even make it past education. We'll be butchered. Well, I'll be Viper, so I don't know. Yeah, I'll be Viper from.
I don't know about David, but I'm going to be one of those guys that's going to a female prison. Just call me Princess.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Send them back to the mainline Chowchilla.
Yeah, I'm going to. They're gonna call me Chachila Loca.
Hey, that'll be the ultimate. That'll be the ultimate. What is it? Reverse Uno card for the CDC. Like, all right, then, you're gonna shoot me back to the mainline. Are you gonna shoot me back to the mainline in a women's prison? Now what?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go over there and get myself a stable of trannies.
Yeah, my wife will attack me with a set of scissors. Yeah, I'm still nervous.
I'm gonna start my own gang over there. It's gonna be full of stud brides.
Hey, I'm gonna call you back here. I'll call you back.
All right, then. All right. Hey, yeah. So, Fish Slayer. Yeah. So, yeah, if your brothers, as far as California, like, if they're on the mainline, I wouldn't recommend it. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have anybody in the mainline, because that would definitely put their life at risk. But if your brother that's in Wasco, if he's on SNY side, you know what, I'll be more than happy to bring him on. But if he's from the mainline, that's gonna have to be a no-go, just because even if he was willing to come on, his life would be in jeopardy, and he would either he would either get got, or he would be sent over, have to move over to the SNY side. The feds, I'm not sure who he's running with, but if he's in the feds and he's in a good yard, it would have to be like the same thing also, because especially if he runs with the South.
This call is
All right, James.
All right, yeah, we're back on.
All right, so yeah, that's just that's what it is, man. We got about probably another call, maybe,
Okay.
Probably another call and a half, if anything, because I got yard after that. I gotta get I got to get all set up for yard. I got to, I got a mustache right here that I put on, like a big old prison brocha, I put that on.
You got to put his yard costume on.
Yeah, my yard costume. I got to get my lokes, my night lokes. No, I don't dress like that. I look like a nerd, James. I got my hair combed. Yeah, I got my hair combed to the side. I got glasses. What's up?
We're gonna have to do a sock check on you right there. How long are your socks?
Yeah. Oh man. Hey, I got. Well, no. I was gonna say I got ankle socks on right now, but I'm gonna go get my knee socks on.
All right, for sure.
All right. Yeah, it's cold outside right now. You gotta wear the long socks.
Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, it's cold out there right now. So. Yeah, okay. I got a cool little workout crew right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we just got a call, not a call, but we got. I wish we would get a call. It seems like the it's crickets over here on the phone calls. Nobody wants to call in. But once again, if you're just tapping in right now, if you look at the screen right there, we do have a local phone number that you could call in and you could actually tap in with us live. And if you have any questions, comments or whatnot that you want to share with us, feel free to pick up the phone. We're just a phone call away and reach out and touch somebody. And the comment we just got right here is from Digler Bolden. And he wants to know if the CDC still has a juvenile module in Tehachapi. Do you guys know anything about a juvenile module in Tehachapi?
I do. I do know about it. No, they don't have it there no more.
No, they closed it down years ago.
Yeah, and now
2003.
I was in. I was in Tehachapi Shoe in 2005 when it was still the shoe on B Yard, and I was there with the youngster. And he was in that. He picked up a shoe term in that module. Yeah. So I know that it was there at least at that point. And I remember he was stressed out because he told me that there's just a lot of dudes and they got to stay in there till they're older. Like he was over 18. He said he went in there like 16 years old, when like 15, 16 or something like that. Got tried as an adult. Got sent in there. I didn't even know that place existed. I mean, I never really tripped on it. I figured, well, when you turn 18, you go to prison, right? But yeah, he said that they keep them in that module up until a certain point, in that they're in there messing up, and he was going to go back to that module from the shoe, and that they sent all his stuff home. I remember they sent his TV home and they sent everything like that, and he was all stressed out because his family was low income, And that's crazy that you mentioned that in Tehachapi, because that's where I heard about it, and I haven't heard nothing about that module. And I was actually,
I think it was 06 it closed.
Yeah, because I was in the shoe in 2005 around there, and I just left Tehachapi in 2018. And it wasn't there. That yard was a madhouse. Absolute madhouse.
Remember the story I was telling you about where I did the hit and run on my celly, and the dude that I was literally like in tears when they were giving him the business?
Yeah.
Well, he came from that program. And remember I was telling you the dude that I ran into, old boy, that I ran into, my homie that I ran into the whole in 2020, the one that told me, hey, what are you doing, fool? Like, come on, like you already went to that side. He came from that program. He had been incarcerated since he was 15 years old, and he was in that program. He's from my town and everything, and he's been down for 20-something years, and same thing with him. Both of them came, like, most of the cats that came up out of that program were young savages, and they grew up to be savages in prison because they put them in places like that at 15. I think you had to be 16 to get there. But the homie got busted. He was 15. So did my celly. They got busted when they're 15. But when they got to that program, they were 16 or 17, and they stayed there till they were like 19 years old. And then they ended up kicking them out to a regular 180, to SADF, to New Folsom, to different yards.
It was a kid named Indio. I remember that was his name. Indio. He was cool, man. He was young.
Maryville?
No, he was from Escobedo. Yeah, he was from like La Puente or somewhere over there in that area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a cool kid, man. He was cool as hell, man. I loved talking to him. And
you know what's funny though? You look at the pictures. I used to look at pictures they all had them. They used to take group pictures over there, and all them fools look like straight orphans. That's the shit you not, dog. They're all a bunch of little kids with big ass cholo pants on, big old pants and big old shirts, and you're looking at them with their button-up shirts, their long sleeves, and they're looking like straight orphans. Like, man, get these boys some clothes that fit. I mean, but it's funny because that's how we all dress. We all thought we looked cool with big ass, all tumbados, pants all crazy, shirts all crazy, and it's like, come on now. How silly we look, but I used to look at them because they were kids.
Yeah.
They were dressed like that.
Hey, that youngster too, that youngster Indio, he was such a good artist, man. He was badass, man. That was the first time that I ever seen somebody draw that good with those little. Because when you're in the shoe, they give you pen fillers. They're like the inside of the pen. They don't. the pens without the cases. They don't give you pencils because it's a security issue. So they give you this little, like, it's a little tube with ink in it, and it has a little tip, and it's so flimsy. But you learn to roll paper around it and make a cool little case with it. But that was the first time that I seen somebody draw that good at a pen, and he did polka dot shading. And I remember he sent me a picture. It was like Aztec art, and it was a big old freaking picture, man, hooked up.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Hey James, the detail in this drawing blew my mind, man. I could not believe it. Like how the dude powder shaded with dots. He didn't shade like in little circles and stuff like that. He used dots, dot, and some dots were thicker in some areas, and it looked like, honestly, I think it was a Aztec calendar, and it was so vivid, man, that it looked like the thing was coming out of the page, man. Blew my mind. That's boredom. Yeah, for him to do that, but I mean, he was just really, really talented, Yeah, I think about him all the time. It's crazy that when he brought up that unit right now, I thought about Indio, and I always wonder how that kid, how he turned out,
Yeah, that was the first youth offender program at CDC.
Oh, yeah.
You got any other comments right there, James, from the listeners, or anything else? Any other questions?
So right now it's just pretty much been like funny comments. So how
Three-way call alert.
You know how we were talking about the I made a comment about the long socks, sock check, and then Fish Layer put Fish Layer and Marlene put let me see what word did they put, let me see where that. So Marlene put I was just telling Gary about sock check, longer the sock, downer the fool, laughing out loud, and then it's funny because Marlene put the message, and then Fish Slayer SoCal right under that, he put the same message also. He put, oh man, the higher the socks, the downer the fool. So definitely got a good laugh.
Yeah, the longer the socks. That's why I wear ankle socks. Yeah, I wear ankle socks right now. I'm no longer the fool, Yeah. Hey, the crazy part about Gary is I've been on the yards with Gary for a long time. I've been on the yards. I started in Calipatria with Gary probably 6 years ago, and that guy is always smiling, even when he's not talking or anything. He always has a smile on. I don't think I've ever seen him without a smile on his face. He looks like one of those kids that would have came out of that damn unit in Tehachapi.
Absolutely.
He's exactly how they would look right now. In that age, older, but still like just real youthful and real happy and real go-lucky, And Gary, one thing I can say about that guy, man, every time I cross paths with that guy, man, there's always a smile on his face. It's always good to see him. It's just, yeah, he's a good guy, man. Just thinking about him right now, put a smile on my face.
and Iceman,
Gary's all right. Hey, so
go ahead.
Go ahead.
You
so
go.
I was going to ask you. Yeah. Speaking of guys that were on this podcast right here. Ricky, he finally talked about the version of events and how we met.
Oh,
he
yeah.
said something about that on the yard today.
Yeah, so I asked him, I asked him about it. I was like, yeah, so David was telling me that you guys, the first time you guys met or the first encounter you guys had was, I guess, I don't remember what prison it was at, but like pretty much he had asked you.
Tehachapi.
Okay, Tehachapi. Yes. So he had mentioned to me that I guess somebody wanted some quiet or something, and he mentioned to you guys like if you guys could keep it down, and I guess you guys probably felt disrespected.
Yeah.
And then you guys started selling wolf tickets, and then you guys were able to maneuver out of the.
We got loose.
Yeah.
We got a runner. He was like, damn, they were serious.
Yeah,
we got loose.
But then he also mentioned after the attack happened and whatnot that once they had you guys in the back, you guys pretty much ended up just squashing it. And then years later, you guys end up meeting up at this yard. He said that Jesse had gone up to him and asked for a bed move or whatnot, and then he said that even when he heard the name, it didn't click. So and he didn't even recognize you when you guys came up, or when you came up to him or you guys met. Not until like after you guys. I don't know how you guys figured it out that maybe you guys were talking about the places you were at before and figured that you guys were there at the same time.
Yeah, that's how we did. But yeah, the thing about Rick is, he just looks different, man. I look different, and I've told you that, in the past calls and stuff. I was out of control, it's just, If it wasn't him, it would have been somebody else. I was looking for any reason at any time, and unfortunately, that's what those institutions are. Places like Tehachapi, 180. That was a 180 level 4, and it's basically if you feel disrespected, that's what's expected of you. You can't. There's no talking. There's no discussion. You feel disrespected. It's on a crack, and as soon as the door opens, it's on. And there's no. If you don't do that in those environments, then somebody else is going to eat at you, and maybe even your own people. So those are terrible. Those are terrible environments. They're terrible situations. So I'm ashamed of the person that I was, especially knowing who Ricky is today. Like, damn, I actually attacked this dude. And I think about it like, man, this is a good guy. This is somebody's son. This is somebody's brother. This is somebody's loved one. And he's a real humble guy. I told you Ricky didn't go down without a fight, and he didn't. We went down. The pepper spray took us all down. It was, yeah, it's just what it was, man. But yeah, my heart goes out to him. I've apologized to him, and it's just we move forward.
That's right, and that shows the growth. That you guys don't hold any type of grudges. Based on on past incidents that you guys have had with each other. So, kudos to you.
And I love seeing. No, thank you. And I love seeing Ricky on the yard. I see him every day out in the yard, and I love being around that dude. He is just a beacon of light.
That's another thing too, though, in the recovery community for a lot of us that that we interact and we have our tight circle. Is there was always a saying that the real recognize real. You know what I mean? And we used to utilize that in the gang lifestyle and the criminal lifestyle. Like, oh, real recognize real. Like, that's a gangster right there. That fool's about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. About his stuff, this, that, and the other thing. And that saying still applies today. You know what I mean? And it's a lot easier, because I can hear David. He can hear me. I can hear Ricky. He can hear me. Silas. Gary. Those of us who, because we've known each other when we were in the trenches, we knew each other. We knew what we were about. So our change and our transformation means that much more to each other, because it's like, that man right there, I know what he was about. You know what I mean? And I see who he is today, and it means that much more, because it just means that the change is that much more real. Because somebody who used to be that dark can't get to where he's at today if he hasn't truly done the work. You don't get to shake and fake your way to where we're at today. You might be able to start out that way, but eventually, you're going to get speed wobbles and you're going to fall unless it's who you truly are. And so that it applies the same way with us today. You know what I mean?
Like, someone's going to pull our ticket, eventually.
Right. And real recognize real. As soon as the dude comes up and starts talking all this good guy stuff, it's like, all right, cool. You know what I mean?
We're going to watch him.
Yeah. Let me see who you are then. It's going to show itself not just in his conversation, but in his actions, in his behavior, and the people he surrounds himself with, the activities he involves himself in, his commitment to what he's doing, because all of us have a moral obligation to not just become better people for ourselves, but to affect that change on the yard, to be better people for other people. And if you just keeping all that stuff to yourself, then you don't truly subscribe to what the obligation you have to give back. We were a problem for so long, but we don't just get to change ourselves and sit back and stay out of the way and hope that we get out of prison one day. We have a responsibility to go out there and show other people that change is possible, to use experiences to connect to other people, to hopefully help them understand, hey, there's a way, you know what I mean? And so, again, that real recognize real, we absolutely recognize it amongst all of us, because we know what it is. You can't,
Yeah, you can't fake it. We spend too much time in here around each other, man. We can tell. We see somebody out there, and they're walking with us, and all of a sudden they're avoiding us, and you see kind of who they're around. It's like, man, we know what door you stopped on, Holmes. Like, those. We were their connect one time. we know who these people are. And it's just be real, man. If you're struggling, come talk to us. I'd rather them come talk to us.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I would rather them come stop at our door before they get to the dope, man. Come be like, hey, man, I've had guys here, be like, hey, man, I'm thinking about relapsing right now, and hey, I'm glad. Let's go. Let's take a walk. Let's go to the table and let's have a conversation. What's going on, And that's just all we can really do in this environment.
Yep.
So James, I'll call back one more time.
Okay. And, all right, and I got a comment from a liceman.
Roll.
All right, yeah, I got you. Thank you.
Oh, that's cool. Yep.
All right, so this upcoming call is going to be our last call, at least with them. I do have a pending a call with Javier at 6:30. So hopefully, we're able to go live. We were able to go live at 6:30. So if not, then it'll be between 6:30 and 7. But definitely have Javier coming back on. And I know you guys are a lot of you guys like his way of speaking and the way he carries himself, and he's quite funny. So he is going to be coming down. So definitely make sure you got your alerts on so you are notified when we do go live.
This call is now being recorded.
This is Global Tel Link. You have a prepaid call from
David Lopez.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello.
Hi, James.
All right. So we did get a
Sir.
comment. We did get a comment here from ICEMAN, and he puts for let me see, for Jesse and David, lifetime sobriety is very possible.
Yeah, I think so too, and we know there's no other way around it, man. I get triggered sometimes. I don't get triggered to use before, but sometimes I think about it, and sometimes I feel disrespected, Like I'm on the yard and I see these dummies walking around and with their chest puffed out, and I feel disrespected. There's a part of me that, I have to keep in check. That person isn't chained up and dropped into the bottom of the Salton Sea. That person is a part of who I was, so I have to make sure that I don't forget where I came from, what I was capable of, who I used to be, and I can therefore utilize my coping skills, and that's how I'm able to stay out of trouble. The same thing goes for using. If I get triggered and I think about, okay, well, man, it felt real good to be high, man. There was a really euphoric feeling, but then I think, okay, well, how did it feel not having my wife in my life? How did it feel being at odds ends, not being able to look at my mom in the eye? How did it feel coming down and just being angry all the time? And see, it far outweighs any benefit of just some momentary euphoric feeling. That's what keeps me sober.
No,
I
absolutely.
don't want to feel like that,
No, absolutely, and I 100% believe that lifetime sobriety is absolutely obtainable. For me, it's way bigger than sobriety, though. It's a lifetime of recovery. For me, I know that all my other values and all my other goals and everything else that I hold near and dear to my heart now, they are all nothing without my sobriety first. If I don't stay sober, then none of my other goals are obtainable. Nothing else in my life of value is where it's supposed to be when I'm high. Because if I'm using drugs and I'm doing those things.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I'm not in my faculties. I'm right back to where I was. So relapse, though there's always that potential. There's always a situation that I may not be able to recognize or see. I would have to be faced with it to truly know. But I believe in where I'm at today in my life after 3.5 years, of not touching anything, alcohol, drugs, anything like that, that I believe that I know too much about why I was using drugs to begin with to ever go back. Like, I don't believe that I need drugs in any way, shape, or form in my life. I don't believe I was just using drugs to get high and have a good time. I was using drugs to escape. I was using drugs to numb my reality, numb my senses. I was using drugs because that was the only tool. That was the only thing that numbed me from any emotion. It was the only thing that numbed me from any pain. It was my one comfort blanket. But the reality was it was just making all my problems worse. And I know all that, all the trauma, all the things that I experienced, that I felt the need to escape from constantly, all the way up to serving a life without the possibility of parole in prison. Those are all reasons that I used as an excuse to use drugs. And because I know now, and I've dealt with so much of that trauma, and I've processed so much of the emotion, I understand my emotions, I understand the situations that led me to where I'm at today. I don't believe I could ever go back to using drugs, though I do understand there's situations that I can't I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what tomorrow might hold, but I do believe I have tools to navigate any situation that I put into. I know too much about what was going on in the past to ever allow myself to go back there. I don't like that person. I have no respect for the person that I was when I was using drugs or dealing drugs or anything to do with drugs. And I know that I have to stay sober in order to obtain everything else good in my life.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what sums it up, And yeah, well, me too. I'm a pretty energetic person. I'm a pretty happy person. I experienced euphoria sometimes, but that's when I get to hug my wife, when I get to spend time with my son, when I get to see my family. Like, I feel good. Like, and it's leveled out. I don't need to have my head blown up with helium to experience life. I know the reasons that led me to wanting to use drugs in the first place, and I don't feel like I suffer from those things anymore. It's a part of the past, and I've forgiven, who I need to forgive, and I just move forward, and I've forgiven myself, and I just, I'm here just to do what I got to do to go home and honor my victims, and, that's it, man. Just live a good life in orderly direction, and, just be safe in this place.
And we got another.
It's always good to hear from Iceman.
We got another comment from Fish Slayer right here, and I guess when you guys were talking about pepper spray, it brought up a old memory. So he puts when they talk about pepper spray, it brings memories when I was a kid and my brother sprayed us all with bear spray. WTF? Dropped the whole crew playing around.
Bear spray, man, that was crazy. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Hey, that stuff. I don't know what bear spray feels like, but I know what this stuff feels like, man. And I'm telling you, the last time I got sprayed was that incident with Ricky Black, and that it hurt. I ain't gonna lie, man, it hurt. Ricky was telling me, because I don't remember Ricky what he was going through at that time. I was just pretty much just trying to breathe, and they put you on your stomach and they cuff you. And they want you, because you got to be prone out in those situations in 180 level force. And when I was laying on my stomach, I felt like I couldn't breathe, man. I was dying, man. I was going through it. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't freaking. Ricky said that he was suffocating and he was freaking. Yeah, he was all over the place. Yeah, I feel real bad about that, man. So I get it, man. The bear spray, that's nothing nice, man.
And I know exactly what he's talking about, because I pepper sprayed a few people with that bear mace, and I could confirm that it didn't look like they were having a fun time. So trip out. So man, so it was either, it was either for
Who
me.
Are you people?
It was so me personally.
Yeah,
personally me, I never got into gangbanging, but it didn't mean that I wasn't gonna fall victim to the streets. I lived in a gang-infested neighborhood. I didn't want to carry a gun, and I didn't want to carry a hammer around or a knife. So the alternative was carrying a can of a bear mace or pepper spray. And my reasoning behind this was so there was like a group of people trying to attack me. A little can of mace wasn't gonna do the job. So I had to pull out the big guns. So the cylinder it's like the ones that the COs carry. It's like it's pretty big. It's maybe like 6 or 7 inches long, and then it has like this big nozzle on to spray out all the spray. So I did it just for self protection. So if I got I could get get a ticket or arrested for the bear mace, but I would rather get arrested for that than carrying a weapon, whether it was a screwdriver, a knife, or a gun or whatnot. So and like that I wouldn't have to hurt anybody, like in that sense, physically. So it would give me enough time to spray them and bamboos, get out of Dodge, without putting myself at harm and them at harm, either. So that was the kind of reasoning behind
James,
me. Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, Brett, that was the reason behind you what? Carrying spray?
Yeah, that was me.
Getting spray?
Yeah. yeah. That was the reason, behind me carrying that.
So trip out on this. When I got out of California Youth Authority, I actually got a job at a mall right here in my area, working security. I was actually a security guard, straight Paul Blart up in this mug, right? And I was up in there like top flight security of the world, Craig. So Trip, we actually had to get certified. We had to get a little permit to carry a pepper spray, and they actually had to spray us. I actually had to pay them $80 to give me a certification, or was it $80 or $40? I forget, but they actually came and sprayed you, and then you get certified to carry a pepper spray. And it was a trip, I always thought about that. But the crazy thing about it is that's why I got violated. Well, it wasn't why I got violated. I got violated because I just was like, started acting stupid. But my parole officer actually told me, check this out, man, you got to quit that job. And I loved that job because it was cool. I would be in the mall, like I wasn't doing no crime fight or nothing, but I'd be there all day long, just messing with the girls and just like acting like an idiot, and so they but he told me, he said, you can't have that pepper spray. It's a violation of your parole. So you have to quit that job. And it was just a trip. Like, so ultimately, I ended up having to quit the job. That's not really why I quit. I ended up quitting because I ended up getting in a fight with one of my supervisors. And but regardless, my parole officer was going to violate me anyways. I had told him I quit the job, but I really hadn't. And he was basically like, look, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to talk to the supervisors because I hear you're still around the mall, and it was all because I was carrying a pepper spray, but the moral of that was I had to get sprayed in order to be certified to carry the pepper spray.
And how was the feeling when they pepper sprayed you? Was it like regular pepper spray or the one they were using in YA or in prison?
Nah, it was regular. It was garbage. Yeah, the pepper spray that they have in prison now is a game changer. It shuts your airways down. It takes all the air out of you. Like, it's nothing. The one they sprayed me with over there was nothing. Like, it was like the old pepper spray. This was back in like 99, 2000, somewhere around, I think 2000. And yeah, it is nothing compared to the stuff they have now.
Makes you want to run around like you're on fire. Remember when Ricky Bobby ran around on the track?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel, man. Yeah, that's all bad.
And so, do you think
it was nothing? They spray you, it's nothing.
Do you think with that new pepper spray they have there, since you guys said it was a game changer, do you think people think twice about either doing like cell extractions or get into any altercations in the yard, or is that a non-factor for people that are gonna do their acts regardless we got pepper spray or not?
I would have still. Not necessarily. It just probably changes the way that you do it. Yeah, you just gotta kind of make sure that you notice a lot of the incidents now. They stop before the officers get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it is. You just find a place that's real far in the yard and get somebody, and then by the time they run over there, just get down. If you don't get down, you know what time it is. But sometimes when you're just in that moment, you're just like, whatever. It's what it is.
They even had a worse pepper spray that the correctional officer union got together and said, no, we're not doing this because it was so bad that spraying it in the vicinity, no cops could actually respond without their masks because they couldn't breathe. It messed them up so bad that they were like, nah, take us back to the orange one.
Yeah, it's bad. You can't
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Hey, and you know what? Right now that you mentioned
someone in the building right here, it's bad.
The orange one, that's what I was carrying around. It was that orange one. It was no joke. When I sprayed, I sprayed this person one time and his face was orange. So that was the one I was carrying around. Yeah. It was and I hooked up all my homies with it too. Like, I was like, hey, you guys need to carry this new stuff around it. And we're guns blazing on the streets, So.
Hey, the thing is too is you can't get it off of you. Like, you just, no matter what you do, you shower and it just reactivates and it burns you. It seems like it burns twice as bad. Yeah, it gets on everything, all the stuff you have. It's all over the place. Like, I'll be like a week later. Yeah, I'll go and I'll rub my eyes and they'll just start burning and I can't open them. And it's just, it's never ending. I remember that incident with Marcelia and I and Ricky. He came over and checked on us and we were on the floor with a storage bin full of water, and we were just hitting our face with the water, and we had fans right there just hitting us, and it just wouldn't stop, man. I was in freaking misery. Yeah, it was all bad.
All right, and I know we're getting short right now.
I don't work great.
We got about 2 minutes and 21 seconds, so I'm not sure if you guys want to give any shout-outs before before we cut it, and so like that you guys are not in a rush.
No, I'm just saying, man, my life, I like to say my life right now is just roses and cherries, man. Where I just like to just kick back and just enjoy life, man. That's it. I don't want no outside drama and all that. And I want to give a shout out to everybody that, all the listeners and, my loved ones. And that's what it is, man. We're here and we're, I'm doing what I got to do to get home to everybody, man, and just to be a good neighbor.
Yeah. I want to send a little shout out to Lex Luth and the bestie. If they're listening, I send my love and appreciate the support. I was kind of hoping that I hear from you guys today, but maybe you got a little busy and whatnot. But definitely anybody else that's listening, Dave's family and everybody else that I know, appreciate you guys' support. Fish Slayer, awesome, good looking out, bro. Appreciate everything.
We see you.
Your brothers will be in my prayers. Likewise with the Iceman and Lifeman. He definitely a fixture now in our household. So appreciate that. Him and Fish Slayer. I don't know if LA Analyst was on today, but we appreciate her support. The regulars definitely.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
They give us a reason to want to keep coming on. You know, sometimes, like I said, it gets a little stagnant, or sometimes we just think you're just for the sake of conversation. But at least we hope to give you guys a little more insight and understanding into who we are as individuals, and personalize the situation a little bit. You know.
Yep. You know, James, do you need us to call back for anything off the air? Are we good? We're good to go.
Yeah, I think we're good. We're good. You know, we got a pending session next Sunday, so I'll just double check my work schedule to make sure we're good, and I'll confirm with you guys, and then I'll make sure I look something up. And I know we're short now, so you know, hey, thank you for you guys tuning in. Really appreciate it, and we'll definitely be in contact.
Thank you, man. Yep. Talk to everybody Sunday at 4, man.
Bro.
Thank you guys. All right.
We'll let you know when we get that touchdown too.
And Brew. I was about to tell him that that Lex Luthor was right there with Jess. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll send them a message to let them know. And anyhow, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream now, but I should be back shortly. In the next I would say maybe like 15-20 minutes, as long as Javier calls me up, and then we'll go ahead and run the second half with of his stories and whatnot. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And then I'll go ahead and make sure I get that money over to their account shortly. And like I've been saying these last few streams, before we cut it out, life's like a candle. You blow it and that's it. It's lights out. And with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream. You guys go ahead and have a good night. Thank you.